Hello class, this is your instructor Amy, and today I wanted to give you a overview of the language sketch assignment. So the first thing that you're going to want to do, let me adjust this, is go to the course learning modules. And the very first module is called Language Sketch. This has everything that you're going to need for the language sketch assignment. So when I click on this, there are different folders and documents. So the first thing is the assignment description. And in this folder, there is a PowerPoint that talks about the language sketch. There is a Word doc that talks about the language sketch. And there's the rubric for the language sketch. And so the PowerPoint will download when you click on it. And here's the language sketch assignment. So what is a language sketch? A language sketch is a linguistic description of a language. It is an overview of the main linguistic points of the language. It consists of several parts that describe the sounds, the words, the grammar, and the language, in addition to the location and history of the speakers of the language. Linguists also include interesting features of the language and its current status in a language sketch. So why are we completing a language sketch in this class? This class is a linguistic overview of North American languages, and a language sketch is a description or an overview of a particular language. Many language departments use this kind of information, the same information that you'll put in your language sketch, to learn more about the structures of their language. There is a program called the Breath of Life program that teaches language communities how to interpret the information in a language sketch and use that in their revitalization efforts. And by completing the language sketch assignment, you'll learn more about the beautiful and very unique linguistic features of the languages we're studying through this project. So, what is your language sketch going to consist of? Okay, so your language sketch will have an introduction to the language. Part 1 will be about the sounds of the language, the phonetics. Part 2 and Part 3 will be about the words and the sentence structure of your language. Part 4 will be about the use of language in culture. And then the conclusion will talk about the current state of language and language revitalization efforts. So we're going to complete this assignment in 5 parts, part 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to put those 4 parts together, and part 5 will be your final. There are example language sketches that you have access to that are templates you can use for this project. I've provided a list of languages. It says here that only one student can choose a particular language. In past classes, I've had fewer students, so we've been able to do that. In this class, I've taken away that role. And then I ask that you choose a language that's unfamiliar to you. I provide all the source materials for the language sketch that you should need. And then the due dates are in the syllabus. And then parts 1 through 4 are first drafts, were 25 points each. Part 5 will be the final draft of all of these earlier parts with the intro and the conclusion, and it'll be worth 100 points. So you have 200 total points for the language sketch assignment. So here is a description of the different parts. So part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, and part 5, how many points, the correct due date of each part, and a short description of each part. So going back to the language sketch module, in the same folder about the assignment description, there's a Word doc that has all that information I just went over and the rubric. And I'm not sure if this is the correct rubric, but we can look at it. Yes, it is. It has the correct dates on it. And so this rubric shows you what a good part 1, a good part 2, and part 3. I had to put those together because this document only had 4 spots on it. Part 4, and what a good final looks like. All right. So going back to the module. Resources. Well, let's go to the templates first. So if you click on this folder, the templates, there is a Choctaw language sketch, which I wrote, and a Kiowa language sketch that a student wrote that you can look at. I'm going to open the Choctaw one. So this is above and beyond what you will have to complete, but it is a good guide. So, like I said, it starts with an introduction, but we're going to add our introduction later. But if you notice, the introduction talks about the language, its language family, how the language family is divided. I've cited my sources in the text. It talks about the people, so the Choctaw population. I have a map that I've included. And then I talk about famous linguists who have worked on the Choctaw language, and then talk about some of the resources. And then part 1 is the sound system. And so here I talk about the sounds. Here paragraph 1, I list all the different consonants in the language. Here's my chart, which we'll talk about the IPA chart. And so I have all the different phoneme symbols. And then I give some examples here. You, for your part 1, will most likely write 1 paragraph about the consonants in your language and show some examples of words with those consonants, and then do 1 paragraph about the vowels in your language and show some examples, like you can see here, of vowels, words with vowels. And then include your IPA chart, either one that use the template that I provide in the resources. This is the template right here. Or you recreate your own right there. And that's part 1 of the language sketch right there. Let's look at the other example, the Kiowa example. And we'll probably see the exact same thing. Jill, download the file. So here, I put my name on this, but a student ECU wrote this. So again, we add the introduction later, but part 1, talking about the language, this student started with the IPA chart template and included it here. Wrote a paragraph about the consonants in Kiowa, and then wrote a paragraph about the vowels, cited her source inside the text, listed the vowels, and gave some information about them. That is part 1 of the language sketch, right there. Paragraph about consonants, a paragraph about vowels, and your version of this chart. So let's talk about the chart. This is the IPA chart right here. It'll download. It's an Excel file. You can open it up. And this chart has all of the International Phonetic Alphabet symbols listed inside of it. And look, there are so many symbols. But your language will most likely only have some of these. This is every sound that a human language can have. And what you'll do is take this chart and just delete the sounds you don't need. So maybe your language has P and B, but it doesn't have this, or this, or this, or this, or this, and you can just delete, delete, delete. If that doesn't work for you, another thing that you can do is in a Word document, insert it in your paper, you're going to insert a chart. And so if we insert a table, make our table. And so here we can use this chart to create a version of our IPA chart like this that we insert in our document. If there's a symbol that's not a common key symbol, one thing you can do is there's a website. If you Google IPA picker, oops, I spelled picker wrong, bring you to this website. And if you notice, here's all the IPA symbols. So for something weird like this one, I can click it on the chart down here, and then I can copy and paste the symbol, copy it, bring it here, and paste it in my Word document. So that is very useful for some of those sounds. If you have diacritics, diacritics are when you have a symbol. So let's say we have P, but it has maybe a little H above it. These are the diacritics down here. So here's the one with the little H. So now I have the P with the little H, or if I have T with a dot, or with that, or sometimes, especially, you'll see a K with a little W. This is common in Wichita, qua sound. There you go. Another common one that you'll probably see is an L that has a little bar. There it is right there. That is found in a lot of Muskogean languages, Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek. This is the th sound. It's sometimes represented by an R, or sometimes with the barred L. Sometimes it's just THL is how it's written, the th sound. That's the IPA symbol for it, that little barred L right there. Okay, so back to our language sketch. So here are the resources for the language sketch. So based on which language you chose, here are the different resources here. If there are additional resources that you think you need, please reach out to me. I'm happy to help you find them. But what is listed here should have everything you need to do parts 1, 2, 3, and 4. For part 5, the intro and the conclusion, you might have to find outside sources. So let's look at this Kawasaki grammar. So here's the Kawasaki grammar, and this is like a digital version of the book right here. If we look, we're going to talk about phonology, which is another word for phonetics. If you look, they've built the IPA chart for you right here, and so this would be very easy to reproduce in a chart in a Word document like I just did. Or you could use the IPA chart template and just remove all the characters except for these. But here are all our consonants. Here are our 3 vowels right here. And then here is a paragraph talking about consonants and more paragraphs talking about consonants. And really you would just have to summarize this information in a paragraph and give some examples of words that have consonants. And then here is an entire section on vowels. Again, examples. Here they're showing the difference between the I and the E vowel. E in phonetics is A sound and I is E sound. And then here are some examples. Oh, and they show that sometimes when a man says a word versus when a woman, the vowel can change. Here it's long and here it's short. So that would be something very interesting. In the speech of men, all vowels and open word final syllables are prolonged. So men's speech, vowels are longer. This is interesting information that you could add. So it talks about the glottal stop. If you know anything about Muskogean languages, Chickasaw, Choctaw, they use the glottal stop a lot. And so you could talk about that. And so everything that you need to write your 2 paragraphs, including the chart, are all on this first page. Let's look at another example. So for Yuchi, here's a grammar of Yuchi. And then we're going to skip ahead. Skip ahead, skip ahead, skip ahead. Skip ahead. Here's the introduction. History of the Yuchi. Variations of Yuchi. This is all great info that can go in the intro. Documentation. So in this one we have to search a little bit. I should have looked at the table of contents. We're talking about the writing system. All right. So getting into the good stuff. The sound system. So we had to go to page like 34 to get to the sound system. So here's the inventory of the sounds, the phonemes. So we're going to find out the consonants, which start right here. And look, here's a chart. So again, this chart could be easily recreated using the IPA chart template, or creating your own chart like this in a Word document. And then you would just write a paragraph about the consonants, show a couple examples, and then if we keep going, we'll find information about vowels right here. We list our vowels and write a paragraph about the vowels and show a couple examples of the vowels. Very simple. I'm looking for about 2 to 4 paragraphs max for part 1 and that chart. So going back to the language sketch, so that's where all our resources are. I showed you guys the chart. And then this is just another copy of the rubric. The copy I had in here before didn't have the correct due dates. And so this is just a second copy of the rubric, so you know exactly what you're looking for. So part 1, etc. Okay, so if you have any questions or concerns about the language sketch assignment, all you have to do is reach out by email. I am happy to do Zoom office hours with you. Remember, it's a first draft, it does not need to be perfect. You just have to try. If you have any issues with the chart or anything else, just let me know, and I am happy to update that information. Okay, thank you very much.